Now on 23 of February 2021, I'm here able to teach the class. Before entering the class, let's sit neatly. Open your eyes, prepare your stationaries, and focus on the learning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before any gonna do, you should know me, right? Because one prophet said, don't know, don't love. Before entering the class, I will introduce myself. I am Zakia Fifanifa and you can call me Zakia. Here, I will teach English lesson for the ninth grader. Because the pandemic, so I don't able to greet you by the attendance. So, I will give you time to fill the attendance that I put on the description box below. After finishing, let's do the next assessment. What will we do? What will we get? Is that two questions on your mind, right? Yes, then I will tell you. In this special meeting, I will teach you about narrative text with its definition, social function, generic structure, and language feature. Let's start the class. Narrative text. What is on your mind about narrative text? It looks like a legend maybe? Or fairy tale? Yes, that's right. That is the example of narrative text. And do you know its definition?
Not yet,
Yes, I will explain to you. Narrative text is a story with complication or problematic event. It tries to find a resolution to solve the problem. That is the definition of narrative text. Have you understood? Okay. Next, we are going to social function of narrative text. What is the social function of narrative text? Do you know?
entertain,
Yes, that's right. To amuse or to entertain the reader with the story. If you have understood in definition and in social function, next we are going to the generic structure of narrative text. The generic structure of narrative text, there are four. The first is orientation. The second, complication. And the third, resolution. And the fourth, reorientation or coda. Orientation is sets the scene, where and when the story happened, and introduce the participants of story, who and what involved in the story. The second, complication is the beginning of problem, which lead to crisis or climax, the main of participant. The third, resolution is the problem or crisis is resolved either in happy ending or sad ending. And the last is reorientation or coda. This is closing remarks of the story. It's optional. It consists of moral lesson, advice, or teaching from the writer. Before we going to the next, I want you to review what did I teach. Okay. Last time we have learned about social function. What is the social function of narrative text?
To entertain the reader with story.
Great! Next, what is the generic structure of narrative text? The first,
Orientation.
the second,
Complication.
the third,
Resolution.
and the fourth.
Reorientation.
Okay, excellent. If you want to write a narrative text, you must pay attention in language feature of narrative text. What is that? The first, you must use past tense. Do you remember? What is structure of past tense?
Subject plus
Yes,
verb
the subject and verb to. Remember? Just verb to. And the second is adverb of time. Like once upon a time or one day or the other. The third is time conjunction. For the example, then, when, suddenly. The fourth is specific character. The character of the story must specific, not general. Okay. For the example, Cinderella, Snow White, Alibaba, or the other example. The fifth is action verb. A verb that shows an action, like fight, run, walk, and the other example. And the last is direct speech. It is to make the story lively. And this direct speech use present tense. Remember? Present tense. Do you remember the structure of present tense?
Subject plus verb 1.
Yes. Subject and verb 1. Even if direct speech use present tense. Okay. And for the example of direct speech, like this. Snow White said, "My name is Snow White." Okay, I will give you an example of narrative text. The title is The Fox and the Crow. One day, Miss Crow had stolen a big piece of cheese and flew onto a branch to enjoy it. A sly fox, who wanted the cheese for himself, came up and spoke politely to her. "Oh, Miss Crow, how beautiful you are! What a lovely beak! What lovely feathers you have! What pretty eyes! If only you could see, you would be the most beautiful bird in the world." Very pleased to hear all of this about herself, Miss Crow gave a bad crack to show that she could see. Of course, the moment she opened her beak, the cheese fell down, and Mr. Fox ran away with it, laughing loudly. Let's identify the generic structure of the text. The orientation, can you find it?
One day until to enjoy it.
Yes, that's great. And the second, complication, can you find it?
A sly fox who wanted cheese for himself and came up, spoke
Yes,
politely to her.
excellent. And then we next going to resolution. Can you find it?
The moment she opened her beak, the cheese fell down, and Mr. Fox ran away with it, loving her.
Yes, very well. Have you all understood about narrative text? Easy, isn't it?
Yes, Miss.
Okay. Now I will show you a video. And please pay attention on this video, because after we watch the video, I will give you quizzes. Some quizzes. Okay.
King and his daughters.
In a kingdom far, far away lived a king and his 3 daughters. The king loved them very much, for they were good and beautiful girls. But one day he decided to test how much they loved him. The king gathered his daughters around him and asked each of them the same question. "How much do you love me?"
Oh, father, said the eldest daughter, I love you as much as all the diamonds and all the rubies in the world, and more.
"That is excellent," said the king happily.
Dear father, said the second daughter, I love you as much as all the gold and silver in the world, and more.
"Wonderful," said her father and smiled. Then it was the youngest daughter's turn.
My father and king, I love you as much as all the salt in the world, and more.
The king was very surprised at her answer. "What did you say? I think I must have misheard you," frowned the king.
I said that I love you as much as salt, repeated the youngest daughter.
"How dare you! Your sisters love me as much as diamonds and gold, and you love me as little as salt," said the king angrily. "Leave this kingdom right now and never come back." The little princess hid herself in the woods, but she soon got very tired. She sat on a log and started to cry, when a prince who was passing by on his steed heard her. As soon as he saw the pretty princess, the young prince fell in love with her. The prince took her to his castle and soon asked her to marry him. The young princess told him that she would only marry him if her father, the king, came to the wedding. Sadly, my father is angry with me and has told me never to return to his kingdom, she explained. "Don't worry, my darling. I will send him an invitation to our wedding, and when he arrives, we will teach him a lesson," said the prince, and immediately sent a wedding invitation to the king. But the clever prince didn't write that he was marrying the king's youngest daughter. So when the wedding day came, the king arrived. He sat at the banqueting table in the place of honor next to the prince. Then he was served a meal which looked absolutely delicious. But when the king came to taste it, he frowned and cried out, "This meal has no salt in it. I can't eat it." At once a person wearing a veil brought him salt and said, "Here you are, my king. I hope that the meal will taste better now." The king immediately recognized her voice. The salt-bearer lifted her veil, and the king saw his youngest daughter. He understood at once what the prince and princess wanted to teach him. Ashamed of what he had done, the king begged his daughter to forgive him. The princess cried out in joy, "Oh, my father, I forgive you, and I love you with all my heart." They hugged each other, and the king, the prince, and princess.
This video? Okay, we are going to quizzes time. And then the question is, find the moral value of the story, and you can answer it in comment column. Well, the time passed and we got until the ending of the lesson. I am happy to teach you all. Thanks for your great and amazing attention. Forgive me about all of my mistakes. Work hard for your dream. See you on top. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.